Washington Commanders quarterback Jayden Daniels only completed 47% of his passes, and that was not even close to the worst part of joint practice against the New York Jets. A very, very sobering day with the Washington Commanders. That and more coming up on today's episode of Locked On Commanders.
You are Locked On Commanders, your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, everybody, to today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, David Harrison, credential member of the media covering the Washington Commanders for Sports Illustrated's CommanderGameDay.com. And I'm here with you every Monday through Friday. Greatly appreciate you coming through today. And every dayers, I greatly appreciate you coming through every single day. Of course, this is your daily podcast covering the Washington Commanders. And if you haven't already, you can subscribe for free on YouTube or wherever you are listening to today's episode. On today's episode, you're going to hear from Washington Commanders wide receiver Terry McLaurin and defensive tackle Jonathan Allen as they met with us following the joint practice against the New York Jets. And then we're also going to do our Eye on the Tiger watch of Jayden Daniels, day number 11 coming up here. But first, we are going to talk about the Washington Commanders getting roughed up in practice in all three phases. If you want to discuss that or anything else Washington Commanders related, if you've got any questions you need answered, all you got to do is reach out and shoot me a text message. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders. Sign up to become a Locked On Commanders insider. And from there, you can send me your messages. I will send you my messages, including bonus content, exclusive information, live texting from practices, games, press conferences, all that stuff. No apps to download, no hashtags, no filters to worry about. Just text messaging. Joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders to sign up for that today. Today's episode brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs, which helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. I was asked on Thursday, while we were still at the New York Jets practice facility, to rate today's practice, day 11, joint training camp practice with the New York Jets. Rate the day's practice on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best day of practice ever imaginable. And on that scale, I would give it a 4. But I'm going to tell you right now, it probably should have been a 3. And if it had ended the way it could have ended, it would have been a 3, which means the New York Jets would be coming out there thinking it's a 7 or even an 8 from the upside of things. And really, what happened is the New York Jets defeated the Washington Commanders. And again, it's practice, right? So there's no scorekeeping, there's no win-loss column and all those things. But you understand what I'm talking about. We go in there for competition, we go in there for practice, and one side simply just does better than the other. In this case, it was the New York Jets, hands down, doing better than the Washington Commanders. Now, it was closer in some avenues than in others. We'll dive into it, right? And really, the reason you come away from this saying that the New York Jets were simply the better team on that practice field is all three phases. There are things that you can point to with this Washington Commanders team where the New York Jets were just either better or the Washington Commanders were just bad enough on their own that you don't even need to look at the Jets. Because I'll tell you right now, I didn't chart the New York Jets kickers' field goal attempts, but I did chart the Washington Commanders, at least best I could from the angle that we had at the New York Jets training facility. And not just the three phases of football, offense, defense, special teams, but coaching. Coaching-wise, this team, has shown that this coaching staff has got some work to do to get themselves set, to get this team set as well. So just a very sobering day at Washington Commanders practice. They've been doing so well at practice, so consistent. And, I mentioned this on our last episode before we came out here to New Jersey about trying to figure out, is Jayden Daniels looking as cool, calm, collected, poised, accurate, all that stuff as he is because he's been facing the same defense for the first 10 practices of his NFL career? Or is he just that good? And we found out today that it's because of facing the same defense for the first 10 practices. But it's not on Jayden alone, right? First and foremost, the biggest problem that jumped out off the page or off the field on Thursday, the offensive line. Let's put this thing in context, right? No Brandon Coleman. He wasn't even in pads. He was wearing his uniform, but he wasn't in pads. So no Brandon Coleman, didn't do individuals. He was doing some side work on his own. Doing those types of things. He had the a wrap or something like that on his right shoulder, left shoulder. It's one of his shoulders. Sam Cosmi was back. He had missed the last 2 days of practice, so he was back. He was in pads, but he did not do any teamwork. Andrew Wiley was there. He was in pads. Also did not do any teamwork. Continues to not do teamwork. So your starting right tackle, your starting right guard, and your starting left tackle, all out of teams for this practice. So your starting offensive line, your first team offensive line for this joint practice was Cornelius Lucas at left tackle, Nick Allegretti at left guard, Tyler Biadasz at center, a rotation of Michael Dieter and Chris Paul at right guard, and Trent Scott at right tackle. That was your offensive line. I'm telling you right now, that is not an offensive line the Washington Commanders are going to win with. It could get better. It's not going to get so much better that this is going to be drastically different than what we saw today. That's just really not the way this kind of stuff usually tends to work. So Washington Commanders really have a discussion to have, I think, internally about, do we have actual, like, how confident are we that Andrew Wiley's tightness, right, quote unquote, that's all we're getting, tightness, is going to rectify itself and he's going to be able to consistently stay on the field. Sam Cosmi, whatever it is that held him out for the 2 practices, whatever it is that held him out of today's team drills, are we confident that that's going to be resolved soon? And then same thing with Brandon Coleman. Is that shoulder issue going to be lingering? The only reason we even know it's a shoulder issue for sure, that's where he's got the medical gear on, right? Is his shoulder. So that's the reason we know that, because that team, interior pressure, perimeter pressure, penalties, just across the board, a very sloppy, inconsistent day. I think Nick Allegretti called it chaotic, and that's a very nice way for Nick Allegretti to put it for him and his teammates. Speaking of penalties, all over the field. You had pre-snap penalties, post-snap penalties, penalties during play, holding penalties. You had false starts. And in the final session, the Washington Commanders and New York Jets got together, and it was, you're down by 1 point. You got about 1:50 left on the clock, trying to go down the field. And one of the only completion that Jayden Daniels had during that set, we'll get into that here in a little bit, wouldn't have counted because there was a false start on Chris Paul. So again, just shooting themselves in the foot with these pre-snap penalties. And that's part of where the coaching staff has got to come in here, where they preach discipline, preach togetherness, preach doing it the right way. Well, these penalties are starting to become a major problem through practices. Now, we have the game on Saturday, so we'll see what it looks like then. But they've got to get that under control sooner, much sooner, rather than later. There was one penalty while the Jets had the ball and were trying to drive to get into range for a game-winning field goal. And the Washington Commanders ran a bunch of defenders on the field, didn't know what they were doing substitution-wise, tried to get guys off the field, and didn't get guys off the field in time. The Jets snapped the ball. There was a penalty. They moved the ball forward, 5 yards for an offsides penalty. Just fundamental things that you just can't have happen if you're going to have winning football. And then special teams. So we got offense, defense won the penalties, and special teams. Defense, trust me, we're not done talking about defense. We're going to get into Emmanuel Forbes, who had arguably the worst day of any single player on the field today. But we also got to talk about that third phase, special teams, kickers. The Washington Commanders went out there and they put up field goals with both their kickers. Ramiz Ahmed missed 3 of his 5 kicks, so he made 2 of the 5. He missed all 3 of them from about 40 yards or more. I say about because couldn't see the yard markers exactly. The stripes weren't painted clearly, so we're just kind of estimating. But it was me, Sam Fortier, I think John Kime. Like, there was a bunch of us kind of in a group where we're trying to count the hashes and everything as best we can. So we're pretty confident that the last 3 kicks, all 3 that he missed, were from 40 plus. You need a kicker that can make a 40-yarder or a 45-yarder here and there. It's just part of the game. Riley Patterson did a little bit better, but he missed 2 of his 5. So he made 3 of 5, missed 2 of 5. Both of his misses coming from about 45 yards or more away from the field goal. So just bottom line, period, just missing on all 3 phases. Emmanuel Forbes, for the defense looked fast. The pass rush looked fast. The players were running around fast. Linebackers looked good. Frankie Louva really looked good in the limited portion I got to see. Now, I can't diagram for you, but the way we were watching the practice, the first team defense, the first team offense were going at the same exact time. So obviously, if I'm charting Jayden Daniels for you guys, I can't be watching the first team defense every time. So we're bouncing back and forth. So I didn't get to see every defensive snap. I kid you not, for a period of time there, every time I looked at the first team defensive field, Emmanuel Forbes was getting beat on a route. And I understand he had an interception in 7-on-7s, and that's great. But when he got to the team drills, Emmanuel Forbes just getting abused by Garrett Wilson. We've seen him getting beat by Terry McLaurin. I told you guys before. Right now, look, it's Terry McLaurin. It's a really good ball from Jayden Daniels. Don't panic too much about it. But what else did I say? The joint practices were going to be incredibly important because you have to see him be able to hold his own. I know that Garrett Wilson is really good. But guess what? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they got Mike Evans. They got Chris Godwin. They're really good guys. They got the New York Giants. They have Malik Neighbors, who the Cincinnati Bengals have really good receivers. The Arizona Cardinals have Marvin Harrison Jr. The Philadelphia Eagles have really good receivers. The Dallas Cowboys have CeeDee Lamb. You can't use the excuse of, well, that guy's just a really good receiver. You have to be able to defend or at least survive and potentially defend really good receivers all the time. That's what the league is. That's what this league is. So Emmanuel Forbes has got to figure it out. He's second. He's second on the depth charts in the cornerback room. He continues to get first team reps. I don't know. Right at this point, it's starting to kind of confuse me a little bit. But I kind of lean on he's a first round pick, and the staff is basically giving him every opportunity to prove he is the guy or he's not the guy. On Thursday, definitely a big step towards not the guy. We'll see what happens on Saturday. So again, all three phases, even in coaching, Washington Commanders is not a great day. And of course, if everybody's not having a great day, neither is Jayden Daniels. Eye on the Tiger, day 11. Jayden Daniels, less than 50% completion percentage. We'll get into that more on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode of Locked On Commanders brought to you by LinkedIn. When you are hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role you're looking to hire for. And that's why you need to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. And LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not listening or looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. So hire professionals like professionals on LinkedIn. Who knows, the small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire properly. So LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make that process easier. 2.5 small businesses are using LinkedIn for hiring. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Eye on the Tiger quarterback Jayden Daniels of day 11. Another day with the first team offense exclusively. So again, starting quarterback, QB number one for the time being, and probably for the future, as long as there's potential for him to be that guy. But completing less than 50% of his passes and having a fumble on a strip sack. That's what we're going to dive into here next on Locked On Commanders. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. For your second listen, take a listen to the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. Get your daily insight to the best fantasy draft strategies so you can win your league this season. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Jayden Daniels. So again, we have all these problems boiling up, right? But I'm going to tell you right here and now, this is why I say the offensive line is the biggest problem. Because Jayden Daniels did not look as sharp, did not look as poised, did not look as accurate as he has over the course of the last 10 practices. But the reason the offensive line, to me, is problem number one is the old cliche is, games won or lost in the trenches, right? But two, in sevens, I don't usually chart sevens, and I didn't necessarily chart them, quote unquote, but I did keep track of them today. Jayden Daniels, first team quarterback in sevens. He connects on a good pass to Zach Ertz in space. Zach Ertz finds space, settles down. Daniels delivers the ball. Then he hit Jahan Dotson on a sideline route, which if you've been to practice recently, you've seen some of those sideline routes. Very nice route, perfectly placed ball. Jahan Dotson brings it down, gets the toes down, good completion. He then hits a fade route to Dyami Brown. And he just drops this ball in the most perfect spot it could possibly be for Dyami to make the catch. And the impressive thing here is there was a day, I want to say it was like day 7 of Washington Commanders practice, where Jayden Daniels tried to hit Dyami Brown on this exact same route and overthrew him. Why? Most likely because Dyami is not as fast as Terry McLaurin. He even thrown that route to Terry McLaurin a lot. This time the ball is right on target. Dyami Brown makes a one-handed catch. Now, there's some conversation in the media pit about would there have been offensive pass interference called, because as the ball was coming in, Dyami did extend with his left arm a little bit to get away from the defender. So yes, potentially could have been flagged. However, cornerback DJ Reed for the New York Jets is who he's going up against. If you watch the play, and this is something I got from John Kahn, because John just happened to be watching Dyami's route the entire time, while I was more watching the O-line and Jayden, or not the O-line, I was more watching Jayden, and then Jaden's delivery of the ball. So I saw the tail end of it, but John saw the entire thing. And number 4, DJ Reed for the New York Jets, was basically tugging on the front of Dyami Brown's jersey the entire time up the field, which is going to 9 times out of 10 draw a flag for illegal contact, pass interference, one of the two, something like that. So there's potential there. The ref either throws the flag, calls the penalty on the defense versus the offense, throws a flag, calls penalty on the offense, which everybody would have a big problem with, or just throws the flag, maybe even picks it up and says, you know what, we got a penalty on this dude, we got a penalty on that guy, just let it go and let it play. There's also the offsetting penalties option. So, a lot of different things that could have happened. But basically, don't look at Diami and say, well, he cheated. That's why he made the catch. Because no, like you were tugging him into you. He had to get away from you. That's the reason of the action. So, anyway, either way, very well placed ball. Very good catch by Diami Brown. Very good play. And it just kind of shows you that when Jayden Daniels has time, when Jayden Daniels feels confident in the pocket, he can put the ball places that you need him to put the ball, even against Jets pass defenders. So when you get on the field and now you got a pass rush and then you've got an offensive line and a defensive line, that's where things changed. Why? Very first pass attempt. So Jayden Daniels, first team reps, first set of teams. He only threw the ball twice. Very first throw was an overthrown corner route to Terry McLaurin. Why was it overthrown? Because Jayden Daniels had 3 New York Jets defenders coming at his legs because they had gotten through interior pressure and the offensive line was basically taking them to the ground while they were coming in on the quarterback. And Jayden had to throw away or throw out of that pressure and throw back, falling backwards away from that pressure. Overthrows Terry McLaurin. Next one, again, he's under pressure and he misses to Zach Ertz over the middle. That time the pressure was around the edge. So you see early interior pressure and perimeter pressure being created by the New York Jets. Next time out, he completes the only pass that he throws. It's a left to right crosser to Luke McCaffrey. However, now the ball is late. And this is not something we've seen from Jayden Daniels a lot, but the ball was late. Luke McCaffrey had to make an excellent adjustment to get the ball. He made that adjustment, made the catch. Good play by the rookie. Next set, he dropped back twice. He was only able to throw one pass, connected with Brian Robinson over the middle for a short gain. The first pass drop back, he dropped back in the pocket, and immediately Jets number 99, defensive end Will McDonald IV out of Iowa State a couple years ago, got around and he hit Jayden Daniels' throwing arm, as he was reaching back to throw the ball, knocked the ball out. Now, 2 parts of this. One, you're in practice. Don't touch the quarterback. Believe me, the coaching staff let him hear it. He got the lesson. 2, would have been a strip sack. Bottom line, would have been a strip sack. So there's your fumble. Next set of teams, Jayden Daniels actually completes 2 out of his 3 passes. So he's getting a little bit more settled in, but also he's picking up on the pressure. And this is, again, you see the Jayden processing starting to come in just a little bit. Middle route to John Bates, quick right route to Austin Eckler. Tried to hit Zach Ertz on a right corner route, but he overthrew the last one. So a little bit better there for Jayden. Next set, 4 pass attempts, completed 3 of the 4. A screen pass to Zach Ertz, left side hitch route to Zach Ertz, left side out route to Terry McLaurin, and then the flare route to Austin Eckler, which we've seen behind the line of scrimmage. We talked about this. Jayden's kind of leading some of those a little bit too far behind. Did the same thing in this one, fell incomplete. Then you get to the main field, the very last session of the day. The Washington Commanders and New York Jets brought all of their team, both the teams, all the way to the main field, right in front of the fans, and they did their 2-minute drill. It's minute 51, I think, left on the clock. You're down by 1. You need to drive for a game-winning touchdown or a field goal. And they did it in front of everybody. And pressure was there. And Jayden Daniels, 0 for 4. Threw 5 passes, 0 for 4. First pass, hitch route to Zach Ertz. Delivered the ball on time, delivered the ball on the spot. C.J. Mosley, Jets linebacker, punched it out of Zach Ertz's hands. Second pass, left sideline route to Terry McLaurin, overthrew it. Third route, dropped by Diami Brown. So if you're counting, that's 2 passes on target. One was punched out by a linebacker. The other one was dropped by the receiver. Fourth drop back of the set was completed, a throw into double coverage, which is not something we've been saying very often. Zach Ertz went up and made the play for his quarterback, but that's the false start on Chris Paul. So you erase that completion. Fourth actual pass, fourth pass that counts, incomplete, short of Terry McLaurin. I think Jayden's probably trying to adjust from the overthrow earlier, but it's short, ends up being broken up by cornerback Sauce Gardner. Here's the thing about that, and you can find that video on Twitter if you want to go look for it. If Sauce Gardner doesn't go up and deflect that pass, Tony Adams, the safety, is going to intercept that pass. And that's the final play of the final throw of Jayden Daniels' day. It falls incomplete. If that thing gets intercepted, then my 4 for today's practice out of 10 goes down to a 3. And if that thing gets intercepted, all those Jets fans that are on the sideline there are going to absolutely erupt. So fortunately for Jayden Daniels, it didn't happen. Sauce Gardner actually saved him an interception. So not a great day. 0 for 4 there on that final set. Again, overall, Jayden Daniels completing 7 of his 15 pass attempts, strip sacked once, 47% completion rate. Just not a good day again overall for everybody. Some other practice notes: Derek Forrest was back in pads, did do individuals, did not do any team drills, but still a step in the right direction for him to be in pads. Johnny Newton, not in uniform at all. We have no official word from the Washington Commanders, but he didn't practice the last 2 practices before coming to New Jersey. He wasn't even in uniform. Didn't even have like a jersey on today. Bryson Tremaine, the lone bright spot probably of this practice. Bryson Tremaine had an amazing grab on a throw from Marcus Mariota in sevens, and then had another acrobatic turnaround catch later on. Even got a first team rep today. So Bryson Tremaine continues to be one of the stars of training camp, hoping that he can show all of you that on Saturday during the game. Austin Eckler and Kaz Allen were back for kickoff returns when they started that set. Mike Sainristil and Olamide Zaccheaus also got a chance of doing that, so we'll see what kind of combination they use for the game. And then again, Garrett Wilson is just going to be in Emmanuel Forbes' nightmares. And Benjamin St. Juste, for that matter. He beat Benjamin St. Juste as well on a deep route. So those are our notes from today's practice. Next, you're going to hear from Terry McLaurin and Jonathan Allen. They met with us following practice. That's next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode of Locked On Commanders is brought to you by Game Time. And Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which means you can get baseball tickets faster and easier than ever before. In fact, prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer that you get to the first pitch. And with killer last-minute deals that save you up to 60% on the app, all-in prices, so there's no surprises when you check out, views from your seat so you know exactly what you're getting yourself into when you buy your tickets, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time literally takes the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. The Washington Nationals are hosting the Los Angeles Angels for a game on Friday night, and you can catch that live in stadium for as little as $12 a ticket. Take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create your account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create your account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Wrapping up today's episode with 2 player interviews coming off of the field. Wide receiver Terry McLaurin is going to come up first, then defensive tackle Jonathan Allen. So let's hear from Terry McLaurin out from the New York Jets training facility here in Florham Park, New Jersey.
This before, but not the greatest weather, but a chance to go against somebody else besides wearing the burgundy and gold.
Yeah, that's okay. We're going to probably have a rain game this year, so football's played in the tough conditions. You got to be able to run the ball and throw the ball. So it was a good test for us. I think that was our first rain practice in a while, so I felt like we made some good completions in 7-on-7, tried to take that in the team. But, yeah, it's definitely good to go against another team. They're a great defense. They're well coached, and it was a good day of competition.
How'd the offense feel for you out there?
It felt good. Obviously, we're just trying to execute the things that we've been doing back in Ashburn out here against different opponents. They play a similar scheme to our defense, so we saw some, similar looks and things like that. And obviously going against their secondary and even their front, it's a good defense and a good test for us. But I felt like in these conditions we completed a lot of balls, and we just got to look at the film and see what we could do better.
Wasn't live, but it was close. What'd you think of Jayden seeing some real action?
Yeah, I think he did a good job of just processing. I felt like he did a great job of getting the ball out of his hands and making quick decisions. But that's what he's been doing all camp. It feels like he really the game is starting to slow down for him even more. But even just coming in, he had a great feel of his ball placement, his anticipation. So I think that's going to really set him apart. So we're just going to continue to try to make plays for him. And the kind of guy he is, I know he probably wants back, but that's why we practice. So it's good to get out here against other people and kind of see where we're at.
Terry, what's the focus for you guys from here to Saturday?
Man, just taking what we've been putting on the practice field onto the game field now. And, I've been telling guys no matter how many reps you get, you got to make the most of them. And this is the time where sure you're putting film on for the Commanders, but there's 31 other teams that watch this film as well. So you want to put your best foot forward, and you want to make sure you're going out there and you can play free and fast. And the way you do that is knowing the scheme and being confident out there. And I just feel like we're going to continue to clean up on the procedural things. We had a few false starts, but I think as far as executing the offense, it's getting better every day.
Is there anything you learned? This is James' first time doing this.
Yeah.
Is there anything you learned about him, whether the way he was in the huddle, anything about how to respond to anything?
Yeah, I just think he's been as consistent since he's been here. He calls the plays well. He gets us in and out of the huddle. Sometimes when we go up tempo, he knows what he's doing, and it just feels like he has a good feel of what Cliff and the offensive staff want him to do. And so, as you can see, a lot of guys touch the ball, which we have a lot of weapons. So I think that will continue to be the case, and I think he's just doing a good job of taking what the defense gives him, but also when he has a chance to push the ball down the field, he's not afraid to do that.
Did you guys view today as like a measuring stick because this is such a good Jets defense? How do you think you'll respond?
I think it's just a good day to come out here and compete against another team in some conditions that may not be normal, but that's a good thing because, like I said earlier, like we're going to have to play in the rain, we're going to have to play in tough conditions, and you got to be able to throw and run the ball. And so I feel like we did a good job of that in 7-on-7. The O-line did a good job, breaking some runs for us as well. And I think we were physical and we played through the ball as well. When guys catch the ball, we just been emphasizing playing hard without the football, and I feel like those things are going to show up on film.
How are your reps against Sauce?
He was playing right cornerback, so I was kind of playing the left. So I didn't really get a whole lot against him, but he's a really good corner. I kind of went against him last year, so I got a good feel of how he likes to play. But it's always good to go against him, and I think DJ Reed's very underrated.
All right, that was Terry McLaurin. Scary Terry talking to us out of practice. We always appreciate his time. We also took time to talk to John Allen, so you're going to hear that coming up right now.
What'd you think? First action against somebody else this year?
It was fun. It was wet and rainy, but I had a good time out there.
Seemed like when the starting defense was going against that Jets offense, there was some jawing back and forth. How do you guys think you performed in that situation?
It's kind of hard for me to tell. Half the time I'm in the middle of like 6 dudes and chaotic in there, so I have to go back and watch the film. Obviously, we're not where we want to be, but I don't think it's a bad start at all.
What are some things that, in terms of that you were most pleased with?
Again, it's really hard for me to give you an honest answer because I don't know. I'm just out there playing fast, playing hard. I got to go back and look at the film to really understand what was going on.
And how different is that feel, though, going against your guys for so many weeks and then seeing the green and white?
Definitely a little bit faster. Whenever you go against another opponent, things are going to be a little bit faster. So it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Do you get more out of these during practices than the preseason games, or how do you kind of compare them?
Hard to compare. It's hard to compare practice to a game. Game is more realistic because it's a game, so it's going to be more in line with what we do during the season. But at the end of the day, we're getting great work. You can work on more stuff out here, so it was good.
Where do you guys think you are with your timing, running these stunts and games that you're working up front?
We're definitely improving, but again, today was really wet and rainy, so it was really hard to get a good feel for a lot of things. But that's how it's going to be during the season sometimes. So got to go back and look at the film and see where we are.
Part of you that likes playing in the slop like that?
It doesn't really matter to me. It's all the same to me.
And that's going to do it for today's episode. Coming up tomorrow, we've got a crossover episode. John Butchko of Locked On Jets. We are scheduled to record this crossover here in just a little bit, so I'll be dropping that on Friday for you. In the meantime, if you've got questions or comments, just throw them to me in a text message. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders and text me today. For now, go check out the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. Get your daily insight to the best fantasy draft strategies that you can use to win your season. As always, thank you for making Locked On Commanders your first listen of the day, every day, everydayers. Thanks for coming through like you do. Until we speak again, if you're out and about, please be safe, especially if you're driving in New Jersey. Be kind, and I will see you next time for another episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.